I'm Matteo Vittuari, as Francesco was mentioning. I'm also working at the Department of Agriculture and Food Sciences. As background, I'm an economist, as Willie Meyers is also, and I'm dealing with mainly with the sustainability within food systems. And I'm engaged with Francesco in a project which is looking at sustainability within urban food systems also. So I'm going to be pretty quick, and what I would like to highlight are, let's say, three very short messages. One is related to the change that we have within urban food systems in general. So we are looking at quite a change in terms of new idea, new business models that are characterizing the setting, which is hopefully following a path towards sustainability. But we are not always sure about the kind of path these very different initiatives are taking. So we need to ensure that these initiatives are sustainable in environmental, in economic, and in social terms. What we are going to do within this foodie project, and what we are usually doing, is trying to ensure the sustainability of these initiatives, trying to evaluate them with different approaches that are ensuring that these new ideas are economically viable, environmentally sustainable, and socially viable as well. So starting from the social side, it's important to engage citizens and civil society within not only the design of potential new ideas, but also in the evaluation of potential new ideas. So what we are trying to do is to promote the participatory approach also in the evaluation phase, so to understand the impacts of this initiative. On these initiatives need to be sustainable, not only on the environmental side, but on the social side, but also in environmental terms. So ensuring benefits rather than potential negative impacts in the city. And this is quite important since food systems are quite often related also not only with the production of food, but also with the generation of negative impacts. And a third dimension is the one related to the economic viability. One of the methodologies that we are using in order to assess this triple line sustainability is life cycle thinking, which is a fairly applied methodology within the academic environment, and not only, so also within the private sector, which is ensuring a dialogue between environmental, economic, and social assessment, employing different techniques that are related to life cycle social assessment, which is looking at the environmental impact, life cycle thinking, which is looking at the cost side, and social life cycle assessment, which is looking at social sustainability. So this is quite important since we want to have new ideas, new business models which are sustainable. Then the third element that we need are policies. Policies that are promoting new ideas, but that are promoting new ideas that are leading to a transition for sustainability. So that are ensuring that what we design and what we think about new systems, new urban food systems, is within a framework of sustainability. And this is also what Willie is going to highlight, also with the help of another colleague from the US.
Thank you very much. So I was a little surprised I was going to be speaking to you here. I don't do a lot of work in urban food systems, but about a month ago, we have a group at the University of Missouri campus that works on food systems, and we meet every month to just discuss various issues. And at one of those meetings, we had a visiting speaker. I mean, she came through from the University of Buffalo in New York City, and she spoke to us through internet thing, sort of like we're going to see here. And I was really impressed with her with the message that she had and how she was looking at the urban food systems in a very comprehensive way. She's an engineer. She's a civil engineer and working on planning systems. And so I'd like to introduce you to her, let her speak for a few minutes, and then if you're interested in her messages or her approach, then you can look Google her name, and lots of other messages from her will pop up. This happens to be a TED Talk, and we're going to start it right about in the middle of the talk so you can hear some of the things they're doing in Buffalo to address the urban food problem.
Then, given these circumstances, what is happening in predominantly white neighborhoods or predominantly black neighborhoods? What kind of food does exist there? So no supermarkets. But what we've got is a prevalence of small stores that are selling food, something called food, but very expensive, really not nutritious, and it's concentrated in neighborhoods of color. So that's what happens to convenience stores if you go into comparable wealth neighborhoods. Not okay. And then, so far I've been talking about people with the same money. But within this system, there are people with fewer economic resources. And as a society, we're failing them. We're especially failing our children. So I want to draw your attention to this. When we look at all children in poverty, this is City of Buffalo, by the way, majority of the children in poverty, high majority, more than 80%, are kids of color. So then maybe local government and government is doing something about it. These are results from a national survey asking local governments, are you doing anything about the food system and what people can do to get healthy food? 1% across the country said, we're involved in fixing things for you. 1%. That orange sliver is people who are not doing anything about it. So local government is not doing it, then what's going on? So that's the bad news, finished. Good news from here on. How am I doing? Okay. So the next part, before I go to the good news, is I just want to offer a reminder, all of this to say it's not the American that's making bad choices. I hope you'll buy the argument that something's wrong with the American food system. So we do have stories of transformation and hope, literally rebirth, to the theme, speaking to the theme of the event, happening in our backyard. So I'm going to take you to the west side of Buffalo, which I'm sure many of you have already been to, and tell you the story of a group called the Massachusetts Avenue Project. This is a not-for-profit organization that works with kids, youth, training them to be agents of transformation and change. Kids at the Massachusetts Avenue Project, by the way, they're teenagers, they know how to work with teenagers. They teach them how to grow food, how to cook it well, how to eat it, how to share it. They train them how to be entrepreneurs and build their capacity to have a voice in the system. They have on the west side of Buffalo, which if you haven't had a chance to visit, I invite you to come there. They are growing food in what were vacant lots previously. They are raising fish in the city of Buffalo, something called aquaponics if you're not familiar. They are also recognizing the disparities in food access by taking fresh fruits and vegetables in low-income neighborhoods on a veggie van. That's a mobile market that they take that sells fresh fruits and vegetables at affordable prices. And they teach entrepreneurship skills, so kids from Massachusetts Avenue Project develop products that they try to enter into local retail chains. And you can actually find chili starters and salsa prepared by kids from MAP at Wegmans and Lexington Cooperative in our region. So these kids and groups like MAP, and by the way, MAP is not the only one, there are groups on the east side that are fixing their own problems. So these are the heroes that are fixing the problems in their neighborhoods. So clearly there's a lot of problems in the food system. Clearly there are heroes in the story. But the problem is that most of what our heroes do is hindered by public policy. And my pitch, this is the last part, is that we have to figure out how to amplify the good work that is happening in communities. And perhaps this is not the jazziest, the sexiest thing to end the talk on, but really, if we don't do this, we're in trouble collectively. So the pitch is three-part. The first, all three of those are really with the intention that we should be planning communities as if people are eating. The first part is that we cannot individually, as educators, as people living in the city of Buffalo, people being alive, we cannot let it go with incremental change. We cannot pat ourselves on the back because we participate in the food drive. We have to figure out how to make systemic change. So here's a very simple idea. You either donate a can of food, which is also important, do that, please. But consider the possibility of edible landscaping in every public right-of-way in the city of Buffalo and Erie County. Why not? That's one. The second part is that strange thing called local government planning and policy. Believe it or not, our towns, villages, cities, counties in the US have budgets. They expend those budgets. Those are tax dollars that should be audited to see, are they helping support nutrition and hunger, alleviating that and building people's capacity. The final point is that we cannot do all of this presuming that somebody outside of the communities is going to bring salvation to the community. That's not at all the point. The reason I highlighted the heroes that I did earlier is to say that communities are already fixing their problems, and we have to band together to amplify the voices and good ideas of people, because to plan places as the people eat, we actually have to listen to people. Thank you.
Thank you. So welcome to Buffalo, New York. If you're going there, go see her. Or if not, go to her website. Samina Raja is her name, and you can Google her, and there's lots of other stuff. And I think Matteo has some follow-up to this.
In the first part of her speech, she's talking about food deserts. Food deserts is quite a US kind of challenge. So it's a situation where people is far away from healthy food. So one of the indicators that is used commonly to measure food deserts is the distance that a citizen, an individual, have from the access to food and veggies. So it's a situation where there are, she was mentioning, no supermarkets, no convenience stores, but only stores that are selling frozen food or food with the high content of sugar and salt. In Italy or in Europe, probably we are quite far away from being in a situation where we have food deserts. At the same time, within urban food systems, we have quite a number of situations like supermarkets and so that face a challenge or create a challenge for small stores. So potentially also for small business in general. Economists use supermarkets as an example of oligopoly, which is a situation where you have a small number of players that have quite a power on the economic system. So this might be a situation with an indication of unsustainability. Or also she was mentioning other elements of unsustainability. We can look at waste within food systems. So food waste is an indicator of unsustainability, or the high use of resources as water or energy that is embedded in certain food supply chains. So potentially the new business models that I think you are looking at as well should look at sustainability in the broader sense. So again, economical, social, and environmental.
Thank you. And she actually, in the talk she gave to us, she objected to the term food deserts because she wants to talk about the food system as being unsustainable, the whole food system being not appropriate. And she thinks just talking about food deserts, identifies that as one piece of something bigger, which is the real problem. So, and again, try to find her if you're interested in hearing more about this.
And this is quite important also in the case of food deserts, but also in the case of food waste. I'm working quite a lot on food waste, and food waste is a small part of our food system, and it makes sense to discuss, to analyze food waste only if we are looking at the entire food system, or if we are looking at the sustainability of the entire food system, without looking at only at a small piece, like can be food waste or a food desert within a urban food system. So, thank you.
Thank you, Matteo and William.